Feminist perspective of international relations. Feminist perspectives in international relations focus on analyzing and challenging the gendered power dynamics that shape global politics. These perspectives critique traditional approaches to international relations, which have historically neglected or marginalized gender as a relevant category of analysis. Feminist scholars argue that understanding gender hierarchies and inequalities is crucial for a comprehensive understanding of international relations. Key tenets of feminist perspectives in international relations include: 1. Gender as a social construct. Feminist scholars argue that gender is not a fixed biological category but a social construct that shapes identities, roles, and power relations. They highlight how gender norms and expectations influence political decision-making, policy formation, and international interactions. 2. Patriarchy and power. Feminists contend that patriarchy, a system that privileges men and masculinity, underlies international relations. They analyze how patriarchy perpetuates and reinforces gender inequalities, leading to the marginalization and oppression of women in various spheres, including politics, the economy, and security. 3. Intersectionality. Feminist perspectives emphasize the intersectionality of gender with other social categories such as race, class, ethnicity, and sexuality. They argue that women experience multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination and oppression, and that understanding these intersecting identities is vital for comprehending global power dynamics. 4. Gender division of labor. Feminist scholars explore how the global division of labor is structured along gender lines, with women predominantly occupying low-paid and precarious work. They examine how this division of labor intersects with international economic policies and trade, influencing development, globalization, and labor rights. 5. Gendered violence and security. Feminists critique the traditional conception of security, which focuses primarily on military threats. They broaden the understanding of security to include gendered violence, such as sexual violence in conflict, human trafficking, and domestic violence. They also advocate for women's participation in conflict resolution and peace-building processes. Agency and voice. Feminist perspectives emphasize the importance of amplifying women's agency and voices in international relations. They argue for the inclusion of women in decision-making processes, representation in political institutions, and the recognition of their knowledge and experiences. 6. Global governance and feminist activism. Feminist scholars and activists engage with global governance institutions, such as the United Nations, to advocate for gender equality, women's rights, and social justice. They work to incorporate feminist perspectives into policymaking and to challenge the gender biases within international institutions. Feminist perspectives in international relations have influenced academic scholarship, policy debates, and grassroots activism. They have contributed to a broader understanding of power, identity, and global politics, challenging traditional assumptions and offering alternative frameworks for analyzing and transforming international relations. There have been several key thinkers who have contributed to the development of feminist perspectives in international relations. Here are some of them and a brief overview of their theories. Cynthia Enloe. Enloe is known for her work on feminist international relations and her emphasis on the importance of incorporating women's experiences and perspectives into the study of global politics. She explores the gendered dynamics of militarism, nationalism, and globalization, highlighting how women are impacted by and participate in these processes. J. and Tickner. Tickner's work focuses on challenging traditional security studies and highlighting the gendered dimensions of international relations. She argues for a feminist approach that recognizes the importance of non-traditional security issues, such as human security and gender-based violence, and explores the potential for feminist ethics and practices in global politics. Cynthia Weber. Weber's work explores the intersectionality of gender, sexuality, and international relations. She examines how gender norms and sexual identities shape political practices and institutions, including diplomacy and foreign policy. Weber also analyzes the ways in which international relations as a discipline itself is gendered. Spike Peterson. Peterson's work centers on the concept of gendered global governance and the ways in which gender hierarchies and inequalities are embedded in global institutions and policies. She examines the gendered dimensions of economic globalization, development, and transnational activism, highlighting how these processes impact women's lives differently across different contexts. Christine Sylvester. Sylvester's work focuses on the connections between feminist theory and international relations. She explores how feminist theories can be used to challenge and transform traditional understandings of sovereignty, power, and security. Sylvester emphasizes the importance of feminist methodologies in studying global politics. Cynthia Coben. Coben's work focuses on the gendered dimensions of war and conflict. She examines the roles of women in conflict zones, the gendered impacts of warfare, and the potential for feminist peacebuilding. Coben also explores the ways in which militarism and militarized masculinity shape international relations. The feminist perspective of international relations offers valuable insights and critiques that challenge traditional approaches to the study of global politics. By examining the gendered power dynamics and inequalities that permeate international relations, feminists have shed light on the ways in which women are marginalized and oppressed in various spheres. This perspective highlights the social construct of gender and its influence on political decision-making, policy formation, and global interactions. Moreover, it recognizes the intersectionality of gender with other social categories, emphasizing the need to understand the multiple and overlapping forms of discrimination that women face. By broadening the conception of security to include gendered violence and advocating for women's participation in conflict resolution and peacebuilding processes, feminists have expanded the discourse on security beyond traditional military threats. Furthermore, feminist scholars have actively engaged with global governance institutions and advocated for gender equality, women's rights, and social justice. They have contributed to the inclusion of feminist perspectives in policymaking and challenged the gender biases within international institutions. However, the feminist perspective of international relations is not without its critics. Some argue that it tends to overlook the agency and experiences of men in global politics, reinforcing a binary understanding of gender. Critics also contend that feminist approaches often rely on essentialist assumptions about women's experiences and fail to account for the diversity of women's identities and perspectives. Moreover, some argue that feminist perspectives can be overly focused on the experiences of women in the global north, neglecting the specific challenges faced by women in the global south. Additionally, critics question the effectiveness of feminist activism within global governance institutions, pointing out that institutional structures and power dynamics may limit the impact of feminist efforts. Despite these criticisms, the feminist perspective of international relations has played a crucial role in highlighting and challenging gender inequalities and power imbalances within global politics. It has enriched the field by bringing attention to marginalized voices and experiences, contributing to a more comprehensive understanding of international relations.